Howdy, y'all. I'm Jamal Simon.
I'm Laura Casillas.
And I'm Antonia Velez.
And thank you so much for moseying on over to this week's episode of the Culture Report.
Look at the cowboy hats. Why do we have these?
Come through. I left mine at home, and these two came in clutch and found these in a closet. Shout out closets.
I love them.
Tell us why you're wearing these hats, Jamal.
You're dying to tell us why we have these hats. I know you are.
The time has finally come. Beyonce's new album, Cowboy Carter, is finally out, and it's breaking records. So right now, it's Spotify's most streamed album in a single day so far this year. On Amazon Music, it earned the most first-day streams for a country album by a female artist ever in the history of the platform. Come on, some commotion.
That's awesome.
Yay!
And to top it all off, the album got more first-day streams globally than any of her other albums. So it's very iconic, but aside from the album's success, there's so much more that lies within to celebrate, including a rich, she included lots of Black history. It's really cool, especially from the open. I know Antonia really liked the open.
I loved American Requiem and also Amen. I thought those two kind of went hand in hand. Well, she quotes American Requiem in Amen. And I just thought it was very telling because it was the open and the close of the album. So that definitely kind of set the tone for what the album represents.
Absolutely. And even in it, she mentioned her past experiences and she was like, oh, well, people used to say I was too country. Then I got up on basically she was talking about the CMA performance where she was singing her country song, and people were like, oh, she's not country enough.
People were pissed.
Yeah, people were very upset, and now we're back, and she's like, listen, I don't need to prove myself. And she did with this. She said, this is not a country album, this is a Beyonce album. And you could tell from all the Beyonce-isms she put in there, from the vocal harmonies to telling the Black history and including all these amazing artists. So shout out Beyonce, you're an icon, you're a legend, and I love you. But even aside from that, she also did a Beatles cover of Blackbird. It was a song that Paul McCartney wrote. And the significance of it, he wrote it not about a bird, but it was about a Black woman.
Yeah.
This was in the context of the civil rights movement. And the fact that, once she knew that, and she decided to include 4 emerging Black female country artists to sing the song with her.
It's just so iconic on so many levels.
Come on.
And I think Blackbird was probably one of my favorites.
It was
the Jolene one was my all-time favorite. I love Texas Hold'em now. I like that one a lot. And I wasn't sure. It took me a little bit to kind of warm up to the music, but I did like it. Speaking of the excitement, one thing that I saw with all this, backlash that she was getting with people not accepting her as a country singer, stay in her lane and all this stuff. One radio station even went as far as to not play the song. And when people went crazy emailing Twitter and everything saying, hey, play Beyonce, they were like, she is not country, so that's why we're not playing it on this station.
They didn't.
I was so mad because I was like, wait a second, who decides that?
They didn't know. They didn't know that. First of all, that radio station was minority owned, and they did not know that Beyonce was releasing country music. So they're like, "Oh, we don't play." Anyway, it's fine. Anyway, and the song "Daughter" as well. We heard it was inspired by the movie Killers of the Flower Moon. It's really cool. She goes into some operatic tones. She's talking about basically having to fight a girl in the restroom, but it was kind of crazy. And she also included country music icon Linda Martell. She was the first Black woman to see major success in country music. And she only had one album that was 1970, but she was coming out in the 60s where you never saw this. And it's been 55 years since we've seen a Black woman top the charts like this. Actually, Beyonce's the first.
To me. That is actually so bizarre to me. Honestly, it makes no sense. We've talked about this in previous episodes, but country music literally is Black. The fact that there's such little representation, call it what it is, man.
Yeah. So that's why I think this album is more, I will not sit here and pretend like it didn't take me more than one listen to really enjoy and appreciate and this album. But after about my third listen, when I was sweeping up in the living room, I was like, wait a minute, she's doing something. She's really, it's so iconic. And there's so many layers, whether it be from the lyrics, the musicality, the features.
Yeah, look up the lyrics for real, because that's how you really get into all the genius of it all.
She's going to open a lot of doors for more artists in this industry, in this genre particularly, because, I mean, it's Beyonce. If she, I mean, she can do it.
And she's also been giving, like, you know, giving the people their flowers who were there before her. So I appreciate that.
Totally.
So definitely learned a lot. Thank you for that Black History lesson. A little bit more Black history. Two of the remaining survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre are suing the city where it took place over a century ago. In 1921, a prosperous Black neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, was nearly destroyed at the hands of a violent white mob. So these are pictures from the Tulsa Historical Society and Museum. The mob burned businesses and homes to the ground. At least 300 people were killed, but many believe that that number was much higher. Reports say that more than $27 million worth of property was destroyed, but today that would be around $468 million. So this week, the Oklahoma Supreme Court is hearing from the last two survivors. Both are 109 years old. In a public nuisance lawsuit, they're seeking reparations from the city of Tulsa for the race massacre.
And for the first time, the U.S. Census will offer Hispanic or Latino and Middle Eastern or North African as race categories. So basically, they're combining race and ethnicity questions into one category. Before this, Middle Eastern or North African wasn't listed anywhere on the census. Previous forms also categorized being Hispanic or Latino as an origin, forcing those in that group to answer a second question about race. NBC says this two-part question was confusing, as most Hispanics did not identify as any other race listed, and more people had even stopped responding to the race question.
And a city official in Denver was caught on camera begging migrant families to move on to sanctuary cities like New York and Chicago, warning them that a lack of resources in Colorado would cause them to, quote, suffer. Andres Carrera, the city's point person for communicating with migrants, is heard in a video from inside a shelter telling migrants that jobs and resources are taken here in Denver, so they should go somewhere else.
Nueva York te da más, Chicago te da más. Entonces sugiero que vaya por allá, donde hasta también con un albergue de más largo plazo, también hay más oportunidades de trabajo por allá.
Right now, Denver is offering arriving migrants a bus ticket to anywhere else they want to go, including cities bordering the Canadian border. The city has also taken in more migrants per capita than any other city outside the southern border, and after federal immigration law was blocked, Denver is looking at $120 million in budget cuts to pay for migrant services. My first thoughts in this, oh my God, this is the point person that's receiving the migrants. Now, let's just backtrack a little bit. They already made this trek, this long trek, all the way from wherever they came from, across the border from Mexico. Then they get to Texas and they're bussed all the way down here. And then they find out from this guy, hey, you're out of resources here, you have to go somewhere else. That is just so concerning to me because he's telling them there's more jobs and resources elsewhere. As far as I know, both Chicago, New York, and I think even Miami, they're already having the same struggles. People are coming to the cities and there's no resources.
Right.
But okay, like you said, when I saw the video, I was a bit shocked too, and my initial reaction was like, who is this guy? Why is he not helping them out? That's literally his job.
He's a public
Why are
servant.
you not helping? But then on the other hand, what if that is him helping? What if he's saying like, oh, this is the reality. We can't even like keep our DMVs open
Jamal, we're a sanctuary
right now because
city.
of budget cuts, because we have to fund.
We can't be halfway.
Like shelters are even closing right now. It's like,
But
I don't know. I don't know.
Jamal, I see where you're coming from, and we've even had this conversation. It's like, yes, in theory, he should be able to, in theory, have these conversations with these people. Was that the best approach, though, to literally, as they arrived, tell them all as a group, hey, we literally can't, like, y'all need to go. Because he literally says, you're gonna suffer here.
Yeah.
Do you think that that was like the correct approach? Because I think it's just like, adding on to the trauma that they probably already have. It was just like a super insensitive and like not productive approach. If he were to like sit down with an individual family or something who say they have multiple children and they're like, hey, I'm concerned about, you know, raising my kids, having them go to school, having a certain stability, maybe then he could be like, okay, let's compare the resources that we have available here with the resources that, you know, New York or Chicago, the cities that he mentions, has. But, you know, I just don't think that that was the correct approach at all.
And also he like told him and blamed that the Venezuelan migrants were the ones that took up all the resources. And there's already so much negative rhetoric around that particular group of people.
Totally.
And then for him to say that, I mean, it just keeps spreading. It was just really poorly worded. But, you know, we're going to play devil's advocate here a little bit because I know we've touched on it. I know when we talk about like the resources that they're giving, they have to take him out from somewhere else. And we've seen him with like, you know, DMV closing, you know, some days, or, you know, rec centers also like not having enough people or enough hours for people to stay there. So, I mean, what do you guys think about that aspect of it?
I feel like, well, I think everyone's trying to figure out what to do now, because I know they were banking on like a federal law to help them with funding, and then that got blocked. So we're like, the city's left with the bill now, and I feel like everybody's just trying to scramble and figure out what it is. And I'm sure they have I don't know if they have the best intentions, but I know they want to be, what's it called, the city?
Sanctuary?
Thank you. Words are hard. A sanctuary city, but like if you don't have the resources to do so, it's hard. And I feel like they put themselves in this position where it's like, hey guys, we want to give you guys a happy home. We've even done stories about that. Like, oh my God, look how everyone's helping out. So we can't really be mad that people are coming when that's the message that we've got.
Yeah, and we have to think too, Johnson did say this, like the values that we have as Denverites, like, do we want to see people on the streets? I mean, that's the alternative.
Totally. It's like, it's something that you're gonna have to deal with. It's like, put it on a balance. Do you want people to continue living lives with dignity or not?
And a recent analysis has found that immigrants started new businesses last year at more than double the rate of U.S.-born citizens. Federal labor statistics and census data showed that Latinos also had higher rates of new business ownership than any other racial or ethnic group. Immigrants had the highest rate at 0.67%. According to the Wall Street Journal, many immigrants launched businesses out of necessity, as limited English and the lack of legal status to work can make it hard to find a job. The food industry is an obvious choice for immigrant entrepreneurs, the Wall Street Journal said, because it requires minimal capital investment or proficiency in English.
And last week, 8 construction workers were fixing potholes on the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore when it collapsed after a cargo ship had technical issues and crashed into it. 2 of the workers were rescued from the water and survived. The bodies of 2 others were recovered, and the remaining 4 are presumed dead. Now, the tragedy is shedding light on the dangerous work conditions faced by Latinos in the United States. All of the workers were Hispanic immigrants. And according to NBC, Hispanic people make up about 1/3 of the workforce in the nation's construction industry, which is deemed, quote unquote, high risk by the Department of Labor. NBC says workers in construction and extraction had the second most fatalities in 2022, followed by workers in the transportation and material moving industry, the sector with the 5th highest concentration of Hispanic workers, according to the Department of Labor. And so despite all of these risks in these industries and others, you know, we're seeing states that are rolling back safeguards that would protect workers.
When I think of like the collapse of this bridge, like I just think like the majority of these employees that, you know, are the ones that work in this industry, they're going to be the ones that are also going to be asked to come back to reconstruct this bridge. So it just makes me think, like, do they want to come back after, you know, I'm not saying that the bridge situation, that they didn't have protections in place. I think they did everything they could to keep, you know, these employees safe, but it highlights like how dangerous these jobs are. Do people really want to take them on if there aren't any of these protections in place?
Yeah. And beyond, I think like you said, this kind of calls for a broader conversation about protections in the workforce for immigrants as a whole. I mean, they're already kind of in a vulnerable position coming to a place where they're not originally from. You know, we don't know the immigration status for, you know, these victims, but for a lot of undocumented immigrants, there's already this sense of like distrust or like fear of, you know, being being sought after by the government or not having health insurance or what have you, where, you know, they're more likely to be exposed to being exploited in the workforce. And then if those abuses do take place, they don't have anyone to call. They don't have you know, safety measures in place that would protect them after the fact either.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then first you think about why they're there in the first place, like why we're seeing them in such high numbers in these dangerous jobs, and we know it's just because they need to work. They'll do whatever they need to do to work and provide for their families or provide for themselves or to make a life here. And I feel like a lot of times when, let's say someone who's undocumented dies or something, there's some sort of news article, I've literally heard it myself, whether it be family or friends, they're like, when they find out that the person was undocumented, they're like, oh, well, they shouldn't have been here anyway, so whatever. All of a sudden, their life doesn't matter just because of the country that they're in, or like where they were born in. I'm like, that's insane. Like, I'm not saying that they need full rights of an American citizen, but what do you think about when it comes to just basic human rights? Like you said, people getting injured in these jobs and they're too scared to go to the hospital.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
well, advocates are already calling, like across the nation, a lot of people are calling for the protection of undocumented people because a lot of them are taking a lot of these dangerous jobs too, but to your point, they're not protected. If something does happen, they're afraid too to come forward. Like, you know, because you're not protected, what's going to happen to you?
And if they're being mistreated, like you said, like where there be no water breaks or they're like, oh no, you can't take a day off, like they can't complain.
Right. And that's the thing, like, this is why it infuriates me when people are like, oh, immigrants are coming here and taking my job or taking our jobs, whatever. They're literally taking the jobs that no one else wants to take. They're working in arduous circumstances. They're working hours on end. Like, these 8 workers were fixing potholes at like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
It's like they just want to work.
Yeah.
They just want to work. And the least that they can be given is safety measures to like protect them from
bare minimum.
Yeah, bare minimum.
I feel so bad too for like the families that are waiting to find the bodies of the people that are still missing. Like, I can't imagine what they're going through. So, that's just got to be so hard.
It's so
Absolutely.
sad.
So sad.
There are some labor jobs open if you want to take any. If you want to apply, there are some open. Check them out. Indeed.
Yeah, for real.
All right, so right now, President Joe Biden is dealing with a lot of backlash from conservatives after using Easter Sunday to also acknowledge the Transgender Day of Visibility, a day that always falls on March 31st. However, the date of Easter changes from year to year, so it's important to note that the dates coincide by chance this year. But the president's words sparked controversy anyway. Former President Donald Trump's campaign called the proclamation appalling and insulting. And in a social media post, House Speaker Mike Johnson said that the Biden administration betrayed the central tenet of Easter. Senator Raphael Warnock, who's also the senior pastor of Atlanta's Ebenezer Baptist Church, took a different approach. He actually defended the decision to spotlight trans visibility.
We need voices, particularly voices of faith, who would use our faith not as a weapon to beat other people down, but as a bridge to bring all of us together.
Preach. All right, Transgender Day of Visibility started in 2009 and as a day of awareness to celebrate the success of transgender and gender nonconforming people. President Biden made an official proclamation acknowledging it back in 2021.
And guys, it's 2024 and we still can't stop talking about Barbie. But despite its great success at the box office last year and becoming the highest grossing female director film of all time, it was not a movie that pleased everyone. During an interview with Allure, Colombian singer Shakira talked about female empowerment, a topic that she has been a champion of, leading the interviewer to ask her about her thoughts on Barbie. The singer said her kids absolutely hated it because they, quote, felt it was emasculating. She said she agreed with them to a point. Shakira went on to talk about the, quote, purpose that men and women have in society, sparking outrage and conversation on social media.
It's just so crazy.
I can't.
Girl.
I love Shakira. Why?
Girl,
Why?
I don't know. Girl, I love Shakira. I will to the end of my days. To the end of my days, I promise you. But this is a bit of a reach.
And you know what? It's okay if you didn't like Barbie. Like, you know, if it's not like your type of movie, that's okay. But I think it's the reasoning behind it that I have a big problem with, because it keeps going back to this thought of feminism. Just like I mentioned in the previous show, that Isabel Allende always says feminism is always like related to hate towards men, when in reality it's just looking for equality. That's all it is. And I don't know who determines what the roles are of men and women, because according to her, there's a purpose for each one, but I'm so disturbed.
I think that, I feel like maybe the purpose of the movie was maybe lost on her. I'm not sure. But I feel like that was kind of the whole point. I feel like it kind of, you know, turns the mirror to them like, hey, this is what you guys do to us. I feel like the men watching it were supposed to, if they were paying attention, were supposed to feel a little bit uncomfy.
Yeah, totally.
And I was like, that's the point. But then at the end of the movie, if you were watching, sorry to spoil, but Barbie and everybody comes to the conclusion like, maybe we shouldn't treat men like this. Maybe we should be equal. They literally have a whole scene about it.
Yeah, it's literally about equality. Also, like, Barbie wasn't this revolutionary, like, oh my God, you're flipping gender norms on their heads. Like, it wasn't this very, like, post-apocalyptic vibe. It was just literally preaching equality. And maybe in the beginning when Barbie was, you know, above Ken in a way, it wasn't like, she wasn't being outwardly mean to Ken or like spewing hate to Ken or anything of the sort. If anything, when Ken's kind of got on top, that's what they were doing to Barbies.
Exactly.
Like, so it's just, it makes no sense. Maybe Shakira wasn't paying attention.
And you know what? This movie was clearly needed. You know why? Because I was really angry at the response of a lot of women, particularly the ones that had little boys that they were raising. They were like, oh my God, I completely agree with her. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
If a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old is emasculated by Barbie, by a doll.
You should be asking them why. Like, as a mom,
That's the question.
Like, be proactive about it. Be like, hey, why do you feel like this is taking away from your masculinity? It makes no sense.
And you can educate, like, hey, if you ever wondered how it feels to be a woman in this world, that's a little slice. That's a sanitized version of the patriarchy and misogyny.
Yeah, totally. I will say, though, this is not an excuse, but it might be an explanation as to why she is a Colombian woman. I am from Colombia. It's a very machista country. So, you know, maybe that informed her beliefs and her position, but I still think that, you know, she's preached feminism in the past throughout her music career. So maybe, I don't know.
She just trashed her ex in all of her songs.
Yeah.
Is that not emasculating?
I think she's confused. I think she's a little confused.
Something happened to her after that marriage. I just don't see the Shakira I used to see, because she preaches all this female empowerment. I don't understand.
Her hips are lying.
Oh, God.
Anyway.
Right, let's get into this week's good news. A bookstore in Denver is fighting book bans from afar. The owner of Second Star is bringing access to diverse books to Texas, a state that's banning them. The Lone Star State led the nation in book bans last year, according to PEN America. Those efforts left students in rural Texas with little to no access to certain books. Second Star says they're sending books ranging from children's to adults and even some parent resources. They say you can also place orders online to send those books to Texas.
And amid reproductive rights rollbacks in the U.S., the first over-the-counter birth control pill is now on sale. O-Pill is now available at some Walgreens stores, as well as online on the Amazon, CVS, Walgreens, and O-Pill websites. The FDA approved the pill for over-the-counter sale back in July of last year.
Right, in a move towards diversity, towards inclusivity, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services just announced a third gender option for people filling out applications for naturalization. This is a big step forward for people who identify beyond the traditional binary genders of male and female. This revision is already in effect. I know. I saw online some people had some comments to say about it. Of course. Like, please tell me this is an April Fool's joke and we have other things to worry about. I'm like, yes, we do have larger issues at hand to deal with. that people are working to deal with, but I feel like these little victories is how we make progress. And also, it does not impact you.
Yeah.
It is
Maybe
literally,
you have bigger things to focus on than commenting on Instagram and Facebook.
The fact that you took the time to write this comment.
I was like, no, you were the one. You are the one using your time to talk about this. I promise this does not impact you literally at all. Just why are you so upset about making someone else's life a little bit better? So yeah, work on that, babes. Work on it.
Pick up a hobby.
Pick up a hop. All right, thank you guys so much for joining this week's Culture Report. We'll be back to continue the conversation next Thursday right here on 9 News Plus and 9news.com.